Okay, so turn to page 20 in your module book. You should see the 6-3 up in the corner because we are now in module 3. And we're going to take a look at example 1. So you're going to see this big paragraph up here that kind of looks like it's real confusing. So what I'm going to do is just sum it up for you. So what we're trying to do is figure out how to graph fractions, those rational numbers, on a number line. Because previously we just talked about doing it with whole numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, -1, -2, -3, so on and so forth. But now we want to talk about how can we graph a fraction or a decimal onto a number line. The way we're going to do this is we're going to look at the number that's in the denominator. So in this time it is a 10. And so we have 3/10 here. What we're going to do is we're going to divide it into sections. And we're going to do this by putting them as 1 over b. And so remember that b is always that number that's in the denominator. So in this case, we're going to have sections that are 1/10. If you're thinking about a piece of pizza, if you had 1/10 of a piece of pizza, you have one piece out of 10 total. So on our number line here, we're going to make 10 total sections. Think about 10 over 10 would be the same as 1. So that's where that 10th section is. So we're going to go ahead and create that. Okay, and just do your best. They don't have to be perfectly spaced out. Just try and get them the best that you can. Well, now the number directly to the right of 0 is going to be 1/10. Then after that, we would have 2/10, 3/10. It would keep going. If we were at 5/10, that simplifies to be 1/2. So don't forget those fractions can simplify. Also, we could think about it in terms of the decimal. So 1/10 is the same as the decimal 0.1. 2/10 is the same as the decimal 0.2, so on and so forth. Remember that 1/2 is the same as the decimal 0.5. So we can represent them as either fractions or decimals. Well, now that I have it set up on the positive side, I'm going to do the same thing just on the negative side. So let's create the sections again. And then now we label. So remember, it's just a mirrored image. So we would have -1/10, -2/10, -3/10. Keep going, then we would eventually get to -1/2. And then you can also talk about it with the decimals. This would be -0.1, -0.2, -0.5, and we can fill in the rest of that number line. So now what we have done is we have taken this number line and we have made it into smaller sections so that we can graph these fractions or the rational numbers that it might give us. So we are going to locate and graph the number 3/10 and its opposite. So right here we have 3/10, so I plot my point. Well, the opposite of positive 3/10 is -3/10, so we graph it over on the opposite side. And you can see that they are the same distance from 0. Okay, what you need to do now is complete exercise 1, pause this video, and then check. All right, so as we are graphing, we are doing -7/4 and its opposite. So I'm gonna put 0 in the middle here. I just wanted to make a note. 0 actually doesn't always have to go in the middle. It could go a little bit further to the left. It could go a little bit further to the right, because either way, this number line extends in both directions. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so on the number line, each segment will have an equal length of, well, right here in the denominator is a 4. So it's gonna have the equal length of 1/4 because I wanna be able to plot these points. So right next to 0 to the right of it, it's going to be positive 1/4. Well, after that would be 2/4, but that's just the same as 1/2. So I'm going to represent it as 1/2. Then after that, we would have 3/4. Well, then next would be 4/4. Well, that's just the same as 1. So I'm going to make that a benchmark number so you can see how I made that tick mark a little bit bigger so it stands out. Then after 1 would be 1 1/4, then 1 1/2, 1 3/4, and then we would get to 2, and that would be a benchmark number, so I'm going to make that tick mark just a little bit bigger so it stands out. Well, now that we have the positive side, let's do the same thing on the negative. So we would have -1/4, -1/2, -3/4, -1, that would be a benchmark number, -1 1/4, -1 1/2, -1 3/4, and -2. And that's a benchmark number, so I made it a little bit bigger. Okay, so we are graphing -7/4. Well, -7/4, that is the same as -1 3/4. So I'm gonna come over here on my number line. Here is -1 3/4. Well, then the opposite of that would be +7/4. So it would be a +1 3/4. So let's look. The fraction is located between blank and blank. We want to look at the two integers. Remember that an integer is a whole number, could be positive or negative. That -7/4 falls between. Well, if we look on our number line here, the two whole numbers that's in between would be -1 and -2. On the positive side, it would be +1 and +2. So it falls in between those two whole numbers. Okay, so now that we have finished with the module book notes, I want to explain to you this assignment if you were absent. So what you're doing is you are graphing these rational numbers on a numbered line. First off, you can convert any decimal to a fraction or any fraction to a decimal. You can choose to convert it either way so you can compare. Keep in mind 2 squared, this is the same as 2 times 2, which is the same as 4. So 2 squared is the same as the whole number 4. Now looking at our numbers here, the smallest number we have is -1.3. Well, then the largest number we have is +4.1. If you look at this number line here, if we were to put 0 smack dab in the middle, we wouldn't have enough room to go all the way to a +4. So what we can do is we can set 0 over to the left a little bit. So I want you to put 0 over here. Then I'm going to put -1 on the far left, and then I'm going to count by 1. So I'm just placing those benchmark numbers. Okay, now it is your job to take all of these numbers here and plot them. So put your point on the number line where they would go. Think about how much each section is worth and fill in what these numbers would be in between so that it'll help you graph these numbers. Some of these may not fall exactly on a tick mark, like -1.1, -1.3. They won't necessarily fall on one. Same with 4.1, and that's okay. So they can be in between. And then after, you're gonna explain and you're gonna choose one of those points to tell me how you knew where to place it on the number line. All right, good luck.